right, thank you. Go
I'll sign
ahead.
off a waiver or something.
So, thank you. So continue. This is awesome.
So daily allotments. So I'm a visual learner, right? So if we're saying at K, so let's look at this.
I know.
Because I have to see it. So is this what a standard day would look like?
It could look like, right? It could. And this, so you talk about, well, we need some guidance. So this is some guidance.
Who gave us this?
Okay, so
I work with,
Yeah.
I work with some teachers. Do you want me to drop your name, Maria?
So, but we're not counting specials as part of
English.
their English? I mean, it's not.
Not in the sense that it's a core, right? The regulations articulate that it's math, science, social studies.
Okay.
So that's a great question, thank you.
And that legislation also says that it has to be taught every day. Math, science, and social studies. It doesn't say how many minutes of it, but you're supposed to teach it
Right,
every
if
day.
you look at the units of study that was forwarded, it identifies, right? It identifies those separate components that we want. And we don't want to do anything at the expense of the other. So how do we marry these things? How do we bring this? Because again, I want to be, yes, we want to comply, but this is an opportunity for us to build something amazing. And it's good, it is good, right? I benefit.
Thank
We
you.
learn anything.
But I mean, looking at this,
What is this, Mama?
You will definitely need like an extra block.
Okay, so where do we carve it out? How do we define
Well,
that?
it depends
You
on.
then just think about how can we balance this in a rational way of delivery instruction in this language and that other language to meet what we are being asked by the regulation. That's all.
Yeah, I do know with other schools because I was part of.
So we want to count less minutes because of transition and bathroom and.
Well, that's what I'm
we
saying,
wanna be
I
as
count
realistic.
300 minutes.
So we're 90 minutes over. Looking at these times, we're 90 minutes over.
But when we're looking like at the back,
We're still 90 minutes short of time.
So how does that look if you I think, so how many blocks do you have there? How many?
Well, we have the 5, because we have science, social studies, math, and then ELA or literacy is broken down into readers and writers.
And thinking about, language arts again, talking about it being not their strategies, it's not necessarily core, right? How do we incorporate some of those things that I would have normally incorporate in the language arts block and fit it into my content blocks? Or vice versa, right? How do I, carve out from here to here so that it's seamless as opposed to compartmentalized? Right? Okay, 30 minutes for this, done, now 40 minutes for that. How do we marry them? How do we make it so that it's seamless and it's all one fluid motion all the way through? What would that look like? Or could look like?
I don't know, because I'm an intermediate, so we definitely departmentalize. Like, we teach science, and we teach social studies, we teach math, and we teach ELA. Like, that's how it works.
And I don't think that it's not negative, It doesn't
And
have
we're
to
not saying
be.
it's a negative. We're looking at the time and going, if we don't have the time to compartmentalize, right, or departmentalize, what could we do?
Right. So at the 6th grade level, what happens is, and because we used to teach exact 40-minute, you have 40-minute blocks for everything, including ELA. But at the lower levels, that seems really impossible because by 6th grade they should know how to read. So it's a different ELA that you see at K1 that you see at 5, 6. Where I would assume
even in the lower levels, you have your mini lesson that should only be 5-7 minutes,
Okay.
And then after that you have your groups. I mean you're not necessarily.
So you're saying that we could shrink the time? Is that what I'm?
I mean, you could, if you make one of your groups, like, let's say one of your stations could be like a content area too, so that you're also hitting content in there. So when we go to the social studies, doesn't necessarily have to be 40 minutes. You know, we could shrink this a little bit of social studies. I guess that we could grab a little bit for each of them.
Right, but
And
I have
even like specials, because specials, I don't know, from each content to expand.
I just don't wanna steal
That
so
block.
much from science and social studies that, you know, science, social studies is just a center and it's not explicitly taught.
No, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying you could do your lesson. You could have your 30 minutes. And then that content that you're using at that specific moment, that center that you're gonna have during your reading time, is
reinforcing
everything
it.
that
It's a
you,
reinforcement,
either to build background knowledge, or just to reinforce what you're
Yeah, I
taught.
can see that.
You know, and I mean and even the reading strategies that they will be doing in there. You could have, it could be all books about whatever topic that you're teaching in your content area.
Yeah, I
So
mean-
so then you don't necessarily have to have your 40 minutes of it, and then you will, because I think that it will we definitely need to then have a block for that specific, if it's gonna be NLA or English language art for the ones that are.
So if we change those times, so we say science 30 minutes, readers, writers, each 60 minutes, social studies 30 minutes, math 60 minutes, that puts you at 240 minutes. So then you can add additional blocks
So then it will be.
of 60 minutes for explicit NLA instruction or ELA instruction, depending on what your writers or readers block is. So you would have 2 literacy blocks, a science, a social studies, and a math. But that second literacy block wouldn't be a 2-hour block, it would only be an hour block. Versus your first literacy block is a 2-hour block. So for the Spanish dominant rooms, their 2-hour block would be native language arts. Their other hour literacy block would be the ELA because they're more Spanish dominant, and then you flip it in the other rooms. The 2-hour block is ELA, the hour block is NLA.
Also remembering too, the strategies we teach are interdisciplinary and also cross-linguistic, right?
Right.
We can actually, finding the meaning of unknown words using context clues,
Right.
English, Spanish, it's the same concept,
Yeah.
right?
And that gives time for the also support to come in, giving them that good
Right.
chunk of time instead of these broken pieces of time, that they can.
Both teachers are working with a group of kids, so teachers are able to give more support to the children that are more needy because you have another teacher, like there'll be co-teaching.
Especially since you have 2 other areas that are bilingual. I mean, we're giving a lots of wiggle room in that schedule for them to support. But before, we never had that. I only have this amount of time.
Yeah.
So if we're saying that, because ESL has to push in at all the levels, at all the grades regardless, and we, unless they're beginners, then they'll do both, push out and pull out, or that was my other question, can they do 2 push-in? Like because their minutes are, so here it says it has to be a standalone and an integrated, but can it be 2 integrated? Or does it have to be
The only subgroup that, is our entering,
and emerging?
it has to be, let me go back into, I think emerging even has a little more flexibility, but when you're entering, there has to be, not standalone, now let me be clear. No one physically, no one's saying that you physically have to have a separate location to pull them out.
Right.
But the goals of that particular instruction are separate from what you're doing in the classroom
Right.
because it's specifically designed for language development.
So this standalone could look like a like during stations, if you pull out a group and you're doing your own.
Right. Correct. And you have your ESL support there, and when they come to your station, I'm the ESL teacher, they come to my station, I am servicing this standard. Now, let's be realistic too, because, while, and this is what I was trying, and this is what's important, and we need to like make the registrars understand that while every child in here only needs 2 units, my ESL teacher may need to stay here 4. Because the way we're gonna rotate around this. Because she's going to hit different kids at different times, and we have to deliver ESL and equal daily allotments, so we have to make sure that they understand that piece too. They were like, oh, based on the children that we have, I can see that, we only need 2 units, and this is how many sections, and that's only 1 FTE. So that's the conversation that I'm having for them. And when they come on, they're accompanying me on May. It's important that we show them, this is why Myra was saying, you can't count just 2 units, because we're gonna have to be able to be that flexible in order to be able to serve.
So this can look like a pull-out, literally doing a small group or doing a small group in the classroom,
Correct.
as long as they're
Correct.
doing their curriculum.
Correct, and remember, it isn't that they have a separate curriculum,
Right, no.
because we have a common course,
There's-
but it is, who are the kids that I have, what are those things that I need to support in terms of them
Yeah.
developing the English language based on what I see, and so these are the skill set within the confines of, the Common Core Learning Standards. So it's not, vamos a hacer los días de la semana.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It's more rich in terms of what we do.
Then the integration piece is a co-teaching,
Correct.
a co-teaching model, okay.
Which comes really in handy with all the PD, the collegiate circle that they're having right now as co-teaching models. So then.
As far as Friday, we're asking the teachers to do what exactly, I guess? So this blueprint right here kind of has the teachers deciding what language they're going to do and where people are going. So the template
And
was
the
to
rest is
serve
the
as a
district
tool
email
for the
at
teachers to
RCSD
decide
K-12.
what language of
or-
instruction each core was gonna be in.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, we can still use that, but, from what we've said, we're saying that we're gonna have a literacy block, 2 separate literacy blocks, a 2-hour one and a 1-hour one. So, and depending on the grouping of students, it'll depend which literacy block is which one. So the 2-hour one, if it's a more Spanish dominant room, the 2-hour one will be NLA, the 1-hour will be ELA. Right, is that correct? And then the teachers have to decide for the other core, math, science, and social studies, which of those 2 will be bilingual, and then the other core, what language of instruction will be that core. Correct? Yes.
Yes.
So then the blueprint serves as that tool for the teachers to decide that, to decide which language they're going to choose,
You also have a unique situation where you have 2 sections.
right, which is
Right,
the
and,
2.
and you and I could partner, and I could do the native language arts block, while you're doing the ELA block, and we can flip-flop, right, as opposed to, in just terms of logistics and planning, right? So to minimize the load and maximize greater impact, we could also talk about those kinds of situations where the 40 kids in my subgroup are all mine, they belong to us,
Right.
and we can do that kind of, you.
So that you're always teaching literacy in one block and I'm always teaching literacy in one block. The whole 3 hours.
Right,
literacy that
and
we're saying.
we could just change the children.
Right.
That could also, in terms of planning and support and minimizing the impact of what the
talk about
language
that.
would look like, that would be ideal too. Yes, that, we're definitely talking about the logistics piece, because that's one piece that we have to, and that the schedule is a logistic piece. And then we have to decide as a team in terms of an execution, what is it going to look like? What are the non-negotiables within this block of time that we have to incorporate, because that's also going to identify for the summer work what the PD is going to be. So, yes, we want to, the logistic piece of okay, we're going to do this in Spanish, this in English, these are the resources, this is why we're doing it. That's fantastic. Now, what is the PD? And what are some of the resources that we're gonna, now I'm gonna tell you right now, I would love to say, woo, we got $1 million and we can buy everything. But we also have to take it to other schools too, because we wanna make sure that what we're doing here, you know our kids move every day. They'll hear today, they're at 17 tomorrow, next year they're gonna be at 28. We wanna make sure that we are as consistent and uniform as we possibly can. So, you know, there are other teams that are gonna be working that day too, that I wanna take your and share your ideas. Kudos, you guys are a little ahead of the conversation and where this is and should go, and I thank you because I'm just gonna steal your stuff and take it to that. But I also want to say resources, so three-prong, right? This is the logistics of it in terms of the schedule. This is what I need to develop as a professional to be able to carry this out, and these are some of the resources that I may potentially need to be able to do this. Also thinking about, we do have some resources, like we just got this science resource. And how can we better use it? And McGraw Hill will be here on Superintendent's Conference Day, the vendor, her name is Yvonne, excellent person coming in. And I said to her, we don't have anything in terms of, besides the text online, which we can use, and I'm excited to share some strategies with you guys. What are the other pieces? And she said, well, there are some pieces. It'll cost us some money. And, but I said, so bring it. You know, whatever it is that you have that we don't have that could potentially be a part of, bring it. Because maybe it's something that we can fit into our other blocks. Remember we talked about making them, what if it's something that we can use into our other blocks? And in terms of resources, it may have a greater impact in you know, making sure that we develop our kids to be bilingual, bilingual. So she's coming and